those of you who are new, you are watching Quantum ASMR. And for those of you who aren't new, welcome back. Welcome back. So for today's video, I have a continuation of a previous video where I talked about the Zodiac Constellations. So, if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out. I'm going to be using some terminology in here that if you're not already familiar with it, you might want to go check out the previous video to get the definitions of that terminology. But we're just going to continue on our topic right from where we left off. So, part 2 of the Zodiac Constellations. So, first we are going to be talking about the Constellation Virgo. The Constellation Virgo, also known as the Virgin, and it looks a little something like this behind me here. So, the Constellation Virgo has some prominent stars. Some of their names are Spica or Spica, depending on where you're from, but I like Spica better. Spica, 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 Spica. And then there is Zavijava. Zavijava. That sounds so mystical and ethereal. Zavijava. Zavijava. And Spica is also known as Alpha Virginis, and Zavijava is Beta Virginis, And Spica is the brightest star of the constellation Virgo. The next we have is Porrima. And this is another binary star, which I explained a little bit, but I want to do a whole video on binary stars because they're pretty cool. And then lastly, which I'll name, is Zanaya. The last one I'm going to name is Zanaya. And this one is actually a triple star system. So like binary, but 3. Triple star system. So I thought that was pretty cool. Some of the interesting objects that are in Virgo or make their home in Virgo. 2 meteor showers in particular make their home in Virgo. And there are also several galaxies that make their home in Virgo. So there's the Sombrero Galaxy. And then the Eyes Galaxies. And I'll show these guys behind me. And then we have the Siamese Twins Galaxies. The Siamese Twins Galaxies. And they look like they're connected to each other, as you can see in this picture behind me. So, something also interesting that I found is if you're looking for Virgo, you can find it close to the Big Dipper. So, a lot of people know what the Big Dipper is, and a lot of people know how to locate it. So, if you're looking for Virgo, you're not far off from the Big Dipper. So, it's one of the starting points where you can, try to find your way through different constellations. Virgo is located in the southern hemisphere. All the ones that I named previously were in the northern hemisphere, So I thought that was pretty cool. But this one is in the southern hemisphere with a right ascension of 13 hours. 13 hours. And a declination of 0 degrees. 0 degrees. A right ascension of 13 hours and a declination of 0 degrees. And the best view time for Virgo is going through the list again. May, the month of May, around 9 p.m. Now, for those of you just tuning in and wondering, well, that's not when the sign is. That's not when the sign is. I'm a Virgo and I was born in September or something like that, I think. Go check out my last video. I explain it. So the best view time is around the month of May at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. Moving on. So next we have my personal favorite. I'm not biased or anything. My personal favorite is Libra. 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 Or the balance, also known as the weighing scales, but balance I like better, so we're gonna go with the balance. The balance. So it has a few, I wouldn't call them prominent stars, since Libra, which looks like this behind me, since Libra is a very dim constellation. It's a very dim constellation, so you can't really see it super well, but it does have 4 agreed upon names of stars, 4 agreed upon names. And wait until you hear these guys. Wait until you hear these guys. I'm going to read them off to you right now. So the first one we have is Zubenel Shamali. Zubene Shamali. Zubene Shamali. Zubene Shamali. And that is Libra's brightest star, which is funny because it's also known as Beta Libre. Beta Libre. But it's the brightest star still, and its name again is Zubene Shamali. Zubene Shamali. Zubene Shamali. And next we have Alpha Libre, the second brightest star of the constellation Libra. And that one is Zubenel Janubi. Zubenel Janubi. Zubenel Janubi. Zubenel Janubi. Love these names so much. And Zubenel Janubi is also a binary star. Also a binary star. And then we have Gamma Libre. Gamma Libre. Also known as Zubenel Hakrabi. Zubenel Hakrabi. Zubenel Hakrabi. Zubenel Hakrabi. Which is an orange giant. I haven't really got into talking about the classification of stars, but Zubenel Hakrabi is an orange giant. An orange giant. So maybe I'll do a video on star types and all that good stuff. I think that would be pretty fun. And then its 4th officially named star is, can you guess it? Can you guess it? Probably not. Its 4th named star is Brachium. 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 Its 4th named star is Brachium, which is a red giant star. A red And then a fun fact throw-in star. One of the oldest stars known is also found in the constellation Libra. So very fittingly, it has been nicknamed Methuselah. 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 So if anybody knows who Methuselah is, if you don't, Google him. It would make sense. One of the oldest stars known. The constellation Libra doesn't really have any like super cool things. Like it doesn't have any like galaxies or anything in there. However, it does contain 3 stars that have known planets, some of which are considered habitable, or potentially habitable, I should say. And when I say potentially habitable, I checked out the definition on NASA just to make sure, but essentially it means it has visible water on its surface, so like you can see it through space, and has possible conditions that are similar to Earth's, which would make it habitable to, or make it able to sustain life. So that's what potentially habitable means. They don't actually know like if it really is or not. There's so many factors that go into what makes a planet habitable, or there could be things that we don't know about that we wouldn't even consider to make a habitable planet. So Libra also contains, or is known for, the May Librids meteor shower. The May Librids meteor shower. The May Librids meteor shower. Also located in the southern hemisphere, it has a right ascension of 15.21 hours. 15.21 hours. And a declination of negative 15.59 degrees. Negative 15.59 degrees. And its best view time is month after May, June. So the month of June, around 9 p.m. is the best time to see the constellation Libra. Let's go on to the next one. So the next constellation we have is Scorpius. Scorpius. And this guy looks like this behind me on the screen. Scorpius. Also known as the Scorpion. Y'all probably could have guessed that though. The Scorpion. You say, wait, but my sign is Scorpio. The constellation itself is named Scorpius. So the constellation Scorpius has a few prominent stars as well. The first of which is Shaula. Its second brightest star is Shaula. And it is, for now, a binary star, but the more that it's being looked at, the more there is the possibility that it could be more than 2 stars. So, binary star, possibly more than that. So, I thought that was kind of cool. The next one is the red supergiant Antares. The red supergiant Antares. And then one of its other bright stars is named Juba. You should look how that guy's spelled. Juba. So Scorpius is also home to some exoplanets exoplanets, planets outside the solar system, is what we mean. And some are also considered potentially habitable, potentially habitable, potentially habitable. One of its most prominent features are also the Scorpii, which is a nova. So for those of you who don't know what novas are, they're basically exploding stars where their luminosity increases rapidly, about, as my notes say, 1,000 to 100,000 times that of its original or its regular luminosity. So they get super luminous. But Scorpius is home to a nova, and it is also home to the butterfly cluster. The butterfly cluster. Butterfly cluster. The butterfly cluster. And if I can find pictures of these, I'll definitely put them on the screen behind me. So, when I was looking for what hemisphere typically Scorpius is in, I got a teeter-totter of the northern and southern hemisphere. So basically the best way to describe its location is low in the northern hemisphere and high in the southern hemisphere. So low in the northern, high in the southern. And it has a right ascension of 17 hours. 17 hours, a right ascension of 17 hours. And a declination of -40 degrees. A declination of -40 degrees. And when is the best view time? July at 9 p.m. The month of July at 9 p.m. Alright, let's move on to the weird one. Alright, so next in line, not what you think it is. Not what you think it is. And if you're wondering why that is, I have some questions in this video and some questions answered in the other video, but this one will hopefully answer a good amount of the questions. So the next zodiac constellation, not sign, the next zodiac constellation is Ophiuchus. 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 Kind of an ugly name, but whatever. Ophiuchus, but it means the serpent bearer. The serpent bearer. The serpent bearer. And Ophiuchus looks something like this over here. So the serpent bearer, as most of you know, this is the only zodiac constellation not counted in the zodiac signs of astrology. And many of you wonder, why is that? A lot of people have explained it as it doesn't fit the certain criteria that a zodiac sign needs to have, as far as like in space and time and all that stuff. It doesn't fit the criteria. However, I looked up an explanation for it on the NASA website, whatever, and other websites as well, and they all kind of gave the same answer. The Babylonians. The Babylonians. So, long time ago, the Babylonians were the ones that came up with these zodiac signs, and they knew that there was a 13th one, but they decided to ignore it. They ignored that the sun moves through 13 constellations, not 12, and the speculation is that it was just cleaner, it was neater, they liked it better, it was easier to follow, and so they assigned the 12 constellations that are now the 12 zodiac signs a specific allotted time per year. And they left out the serpent bearer. How rude. But it is what it is. And just because, you know, this comes up every 3-4 years, that there's actually a 13th zodiac constellation. The zodiac signs haven't changed, so you can hold on to that. Alright, let's get into its most prominent stars. So, 2 of its most prominent stars are, number 1, Barnard's star. Barnard's star, also known as the second closest star to the Earth. The second closest star to the Earth. And then there's Russell-Higg. Russell-Higg, also given the name head of the snake charmer. So Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer, and a serpent bearer needs a head. So Russell-Higg has been given that title, the head of the snake charmer. And in the constellation, that's where it sits. It's where the head is supposed to be, I guess. Alright, so the constellation Ophiuchus is home to some star clusters, a few star clusters, I didn't really get the names of them, TBH, but it is home to what is known as Kepler's supernova. And we talked about novas, but supernovas occur at the end of a star's life. And it is the biggest explosion known in space. The biggest explosion known to happen in space. So, supernovas, massive explosion. And the guy who found it, you guessed it, Johannes Kepler. Mr. Kepler, he found it. My guy. So, on top of those, it is also home to, the constellation is also home to the Nebular Complex or Cloud Complex, Rho Ophiuchi or Rho Ophiuchi. Rho Ophiuchi or Rho Ophiuchi. I think it's Rho Ophiuchi. I can't be 100% certain. I looked up all the names and you forget sometimes, and that's okay. But this guy is a nebular complex. And I have the definition right here. A nebular complex or a cloud complex is just a complex or a bunch of interstellar clouds. And it also contains different nebulae. And in this case, with the Rho Ophiuchi nebular complex, it particularly favors the dark nebulae. Oh my goodness. And then there's also a potentially habitable planet in this constellation as well, and it was given the name Wolf 1061c. Wolf 1061c. Wolf 1061c. It is also located in the southern hemisphere with a right ascension of 17.18 hours. 17.18 hours. And again, if y'all want to come at me with, that's not exact, look at my last video. But the average place to find this guy is at a right ascension of 17.18 hours and negative 4.24 degrees. Negative 4.24 degrees. And the best view time, July around 9 p.m. July around 9 p.m. So that is all I have for you guys today. You'll have to tune into the third part for the rest of the Zodiac Constellations. And then you can always check out my last video on them, the part 1, explaining a little bit more about the previous constellations. But for now, we're going to close the video. So with that being said, I hope that you have a very good night, or a good morning, or a good day, whatever time of day you're watching this, I hope that you are doing very well, and I will see you all in my next video. So,